Hello, this is Carol, and today I'm going to show you how I create digital collages using PicMonkey. Before I start, I want to say that I'm no expert at this. In fact, I'm quite new to it, but I'm going to try to explain my process. So this page is the home page of PicMonkey. I use PicMonkey simply because it's a program that I've used for editing photographs for a number of years, and it's a layering program, so it's suitable for designing the collages. I start by creating Create New, and this asks you to choose where you want to select your images from. So I'm going to select from my computer. Now I've already created a file or a folder called PicMonkey, and this has various elements on it, and I'm going to show you each of these elements before we begin and talk you through these. First of all, I have this JPEG file, which is a background. So just like when you make a card or a scrapbook page, you start at the bottom and you work upwards by building layers. This is the background or the paper. At the moment, it's a little bit boring. It's brown, it's grungy, it's like wooden planks, but it doesn't have to stay this way. I can lighten it or I can darken it. I can fade it out to make it a little bit more transparent. I can even change the colour of it and then do the fading and blending. I'll talk about that more a little later on. So it's a JPEG file. Any JPEG that you have, whether it be square or rectangular, can act as a background. The next one that I have is also a JPEG file, and this is one of the beautiful forest fairies designed by Kim. This is how it comes as a rectangle with a background. Sometimes I remove backgrounds and just use the image, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to keep the whole image. So the end result will look more like a scrapbook page than a digital collage. Any JPEG with a focal image will do for this. And thirdly, my third JPEG is a sentiment. Now this one I think I probably got from online, simply taking a screenshot of it, and it's on a white background with black lettering, and when this is added to the collage it will look like any other sentiment that you cut out of paper. Now the rest of the images you'll notice are all PNG files, and this means that they are actually transparent. They don't look it as you look here, they look as if they've got white backgrounds, but when you open them up you'll see that the background is grey, which indicates that they're transparent. So this first one is what I would call a border mask. It's black, it's grungy. Some of the grungy marks are actually going to go over the centre, or the corner if you like, of the plank paper. At the moment it looks black, but I can change the colour. I can fade it to greys, or I can change the colour completely. The idea of having a border mask is that it draws your eye into the centre, into the focal point. And it's a little bit like when you have a piece of card and you ink around the edges. So that is my first border mask. The second image that I have is also a border mask, but this time it's gold painted border. I like to use gold. I like the look that it gives. It won't cover up all of the black because the black border we've just seen was wider. So this will just go around the very edge. The third image I have, because I've chosen a fairy image, I decided I needed a little fairy dust. So this has a transparent background and little blips of light, which when they're on the collage, when they're on the background, will look like fairy dust, little sparkles, add a touch of magic. The next one is another mask. This is quite bold, quite vivid, and a little bit in your face. But what I intend to do with this is to pop it onto the wooden background and to fade it out. And it will add some texture and some colour to the background and just give it a little bit more interest. Then I've got some ferns, again on a transparent background. I have some berries on a transparent background. And finally, I have another border mask. You can't actually see the border mask, but it is there. And the reason you can't see it is because this is a grey border mask. It's a lot plainer than the other black one that I had. Remember, when I put this onto my collage, I can change its colour. So if I want to make it black, I can, or I can make it any other colour. So those are the elements that I'm going to use in this collage. There aren't that many of them, but I can duplicate them and layer them. And I find that actually selecting the elements that I'm going to use is probably the most time consuming. Once you've gathered your elements, it's easy to make a collage with them, which is what I'm going to show you next. So I'll just pop this down to the side again and show you how we go about creating the collage in PicMonkey. So I've already been to create new and chosen from my computer, and I've clicked on the PicMonkey file. That's where I want to begin. And when I look through, I'm going to choose the background, double click on it, and it takes me to the workspace. So there is the background. I can make it smaller and I can make it larger by zooming. I can also undo my last move and redo a move. If I delete something by accident, I can undo it and it will come back. The next thing is to upload the elements that I'm going to use. There are two ways of doing this. I can do it from Add Image, and then I would select Computer and I would select each element from that PicMonkey file. I could select each element in turn and upload, but in actual fact, an easier way of doing it is to click on the camera icon at the side. I can upload photos, so I click on upload and it tells me I can upload files by clicking on the blue button and doing them individually, or I can drag images from the desktop, and that is by far the quickest way of doing it. So if I bring the file to where I can see it, I can now add these images. So I'm simply clicking and dragging them onto this workspace at the side. I'm trying to remember the order I do them because I'm adding them all at once. It's going to take a little bit of time for the picture to actually upload, but I can get rid of that because I've dragged them all on, and there they are uploading. Oops, the sentiment's the only one that's uploaded at the moment. So here I've got the background. There it is at the side. That's my first layer, my base layer. The next thing I'm going to add to it is the border mask, which I believe is this one. Now, although it looks as if it's not uploaded, if I click on it, there it is. And all that I need to do now is to drag the corners and enlarge it so that it fits over my background. I can drag each side. If I drag the corners, then it stays in proportion and enlarges. If I click off, I can see that I'm not exactly to the ends of the background, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to put the gold mask on next, and that will just go around the very edges. And you can see in the side panel that that is my second layer. So now I'm going to put the gold border mask on, and that has made itself the size of my background. If I click off, that looks perfect. I don't think I need to do anything with that. And there we can see that it's the third layer. I'm quite happy with that. So the next thing I'm going to put on is the image. So here's the image. If I click on that, I can now drag the corner to keep the proportions and make it the size that I want. I'm going to stick with that. No, a little bit smaller, I think. You can see that that is my fourth layer now. I'm going to click off. If I wanted to alter anything, for instance, let's say I wasn't happy with where the picture is, I can click on it, but sometimes it actually clicks on something else. So you're better to click on the sidebar, to click on the layer, and that highlights it. And now I can just move it with my mouse or trackpad because I'm using a laptop. So that's my image. I'm going to have it that size. It looks very flat at the moment on that page, so I'm going to add a drop shadow to it so that it looks as if it might be on foam pads. Let's say if this was a physical card and it would cast a shadow. So I want to add a drop shadow to the fairy, so I'm clicking on it. It is highlighted, you can see it in blue. And if I go to the sidebar here, I've got shadow and outline. I'm clicking on that and I'm saying add a drop shadow. Now that has already added a drop shadow. I don't know if you can see it, it's there, but I've decided it's not enough. So I'm going to open up the drop shadow and I'm going to increase the distance. And now you can actually tell that there is a shadow. It actually looks as if it's been lifted up a little bit from the page, and I like that better. So I'm happy with what I've got so far. I'm going to go back to the images that I'm uploading. Now I'm going to add a frame around the fairy, and at this point I'm not sure whether to add the grungy one or whether to add the plainer black one. So I'll start with the grungy one and just see what that looks like. Here we go. I'm making it the same size as the image, but not the same size as the shadow. Now I can see that that one, because of the grunginess, it's got a few lines on her face. So I'm going to delete that. I'm not happy with that. Two ways I can do this. I can either undo it or I can click on it. I'll show you the undo. So now I need to undo again because it's just taken it to that stage. It's gone. If I put it back on again, the second way I could have done it was to click on the layer which highlights it and then delete it from my computer. So that has gone now, and I'm going to go and try this border mask. Now you can see that that is grey in comparison to the black one. Let's just make it the right size. It helps, I find, if it's on the actual picture, because once it goes beyond the picture boundaries, you can't find the corners to change the shape of it. So let's get that done. I'm going to actually zoom in to see if I've got it in the right place. This edge isn't. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I don't like the grey though, so I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go to my tints and colours and I'm going to see if I can make it, let's make it green. I want a dark green. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that for now, I think, and I'm going to zoom back out. I can always come back later if I'm undecided about the colour of it. Okay, and go back to our uploads. I'm going to add this mask, which, if you remember, I said was a little bit grungy, a little bit in your face. And my program is, oh, there we go. I thought it had crashed. So it's added it. What you can see now is that it's covered up the image. It's added it twice. I'll just get rid of one. Oops, I'm obviously been click happy with that. Right, so I'm back to just having one of them. I'm enlarging it a bit. And I am going to fade it. So down here we've got fade and blend. And I'm going to fade it out to that. I quite like that. I don't want it to cover my image, so I'm simply going to drag it below the image and it puts it in the background. I'm going to duplicate it simply by copying and pasting, but I could have also clicked on this to get a second one. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to turn it upside down-ish. That will do. And I'm going to drag that under the image as well. I'm going to add a third one. And I'm going to drag that under the image as well. So I've got 3 of those masks in the background, faded out, and that adds a little bit more interest to that plain wooden plank background. I'm thinking at the moment that this black border mask might be a bit dark, so I'm going back to the border mask by clicking on the side panel, and I'm going to fade that a little bit. See, I can fade it right out. Doesn't seem any point in doing that. So I just want it a little bit lighter. I don't want it as black as it was, so I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, I'm happy with how this is coming together. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my sentiment. Here's the sentiment. Click on it. Oops, that is tiny. Enlarge it so that we can see it. Pop it wherever you want it. And I'm going to give it a frame, a border. I'll give it the same grey one that we had on the picture. Make it small enough, make sure I've got hold of it. Enlarge the whole thing so that I can fit this on. It doesn't want to go, does it? A little bit fiddly. Let's have a click off and see. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That looks okay. Click on the sentiment, so we're just looking at the white sentiment, and I'm going to add a drop shadow to it. Again, if I expand the distance, it just gives it a little bit more. So now that looks as if it's been raised a little bit on foam pads, gives it a bit more dimension on top of the image. If I take everything out again, this is where we're up to. If I click off, get rid of it. I think this is coming together nicely. However, I'm not sure I like this green border. So that was the green border. I'm going to go back to the colour and I'm going to alter it back to grey, I think. Actually, that looks black now, doesn't it? I'm happier with that. And I think adjust it slightly. No, that doesn't look right, does it? Let me go. Where is it? This one? Okay, that's better, I think. Yeah, I think that's okay. So all that I've got left to put on it now from the elements that I've chosen is the fairy dust, and I've got some leaves and some berries. Everything else is already on. So we'll do the fairy dust next. Click on that. There it loads. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm not going to have it on the image because I think it gets lost on the image. I'm going to put it in the background. I'm going to copy and paste so that I've got one on this side. Copy and paste and turn it around so that I've got some at the bottom. Copy and paste and put some at the top. So I've got fairy dust all around the image. Some of it goes over the image. So what I need to do now is the 4 fairy dusts, which are these, is I need to take them so that they are below the image. So they need to go there. I want them on top of the mask that's giving texture to the background. So they have to stay above that but below the image. Here we go, and that's the top one. So now if you have a look, they're not on top of the image, they're not on top of the sentiment because they're above the fairy dust. Okay, so finally I'm going to add the foliage, which is a bit on the large side, so we'll make it smaller. I'll turn it round, I'll pop it there, decide what size I want, add another, make it a little smaller, turn it around, pop it there, click off. Do I like that? It's not bad. Add some berries. Make them smaller. Turn them around. Put them in the corner. Click off. Do I like that? That's not bad. It's done. And that's how I make my collages. Now I always finish off with a frame, and I've got the option to add a frame. So I just add a simple edge. This is where you find out if you've actually gone over the edge of the paper, because if you have, the white border won't show. To be honest, that isn't too bad. So I'm going to apply that. I could, if I wanted, change the black border to any other colour, but I quite like the black, so I'm going to leave it as a black border, and I will apply that. And normally I add a second border just to finish it off. And then if this was going to go onto Facebook, I would add a watermark. I keep my watermarks on my desktop so that they're handy, and just pop it on there and drag it to one corner. And that's the collage finished. So next, all that I need to do is to give it a title. I'll call it Forest Fairy 1, and download it. I can download it as a PNG, as a JPEG, or as a PDF. So I'll download it as a JPEG, and there it is, saved. And that's how I do my collages. I hope this was of some help to you. If you have any questions, just message me on Facebook and I'll do my best to answer you. Okay, that's all for now. Bye.